Okay. So let's just take a moment and show up. Just a deep, free, timeless breath. We'll give people a few minutes to get into the room. Just let everything stop. So that you can look up from the story and see the night sky that you forgot was there. Just step into the rhythm of this moment. Nothing to grip, nothing to cling to. It's just a letting go. It's just a shift in perspective. You know, the world around us looks so solid, but any physicist will tell you that the vast majority of even the densest substance is open space. You have these particles that are atoms and electrons floating around, and at that microscopic level, the distance between the atom and the electron is vast. And that vast distance is just one particle that makes up the solid object. We look at it and we don't see the space. We see the thing. We see the story. We see the noun. we see something dense. But the reality of what you're seeing is that 99% of it is nothing. It's vast, open space. At the subatomic level, vast, open space. And then we live our lives, and those lives are rich with stories, or poor with stories. These flashy things that dominate the screen of the mind. Everything we think we know about ourselves, everything we think we know about every person in this world, all the characteristics that we've ascribed to life, and this dance of energy as the stories play themselves out. And it can feel all sorts of things. But generally, for most people, what it doesn't feel is spacious. It feels filled from wall to wall. You come to a class like this just hoping for that magical moment where you can get a little distance from it and experience who you are outside of it, knowing that when the class is done, they're going to come screaming back in and fill everything up again. But you know, the reality of all of that is vast open space. Just about everything that happens in your life is composed of nothing happening. Think of your busiest day. This happened, then that happened, then another thing happened, that made something else happen. But in between all of those things is actually where the majority of time is. And it's open, free space. Clean, unencumbered by anything. Absolute potential energy, capable of going in any direction or just vibrating freely in the moment. But we're so enamored with the story that we reach into the past moment to keep it alive, or we reach into the future moment to stave off whatever that past moment portends. And we never actually make use of the freedom right in front of us. We think it's so busy. Just like you think the chair you're sitting on is so solid. But it's not. It's mostly free, clear, unobstructed space. With nothing pushing or pulling at you. That is reality. You come to a class like this to get a taste of something that's right in front of you all day long. We get so addicted to the story that we can't just let it go. A habit of clinging. And in doing that, we give up all our free space, all of our freedom. You know, they talk about this life review that happens after you die. As if there's just no space. And then finally you get this moment of space and you can take an honest look at how things have been. That moment is always right in front of you. And you don't even have to take it. You just have to let go of the other thing. But if you don't, then the story you're living out now sets up the next story, which sets up the next story, which sets up the next story. A system of stories that actually imprison your consciousness, keep you from your freedom. I'm not here to turn you into a saint. Your religions can do that. I'm here to help you out of the story. Because if you become a saint just as a matter of a storyline, then it isn't real. People spend their lives in the story flip-flopping back and forth from sinner to saint or whatever. In the world of the story, one defines the other. Chastity is defined through sluttiness, you know? Wealth is defined through poverty. A world of people just playing with ideals. All of it built on a storyline of lack, where you're either trying to get something that you think you don't have, or you're trying to stave off a moment where you lose something that you have. It's all just a story of lack. You either put it in the future or you put it in the past. But if you step into the present, all of that falls apart and you aren't lacking anything. The first part of you that figures that out is your body. That's why people always say they sleep better after these classes. But there are implications to this realization that go very deep. You have incarnated into a world of illusion, a world that is stuck in a story, a series of stories, a web of stories. You've gotten lost in it, and you need to wake up within it. And the cycle isn't over the second you wake up to it. You actually have to learn how to work with it. But that doesn't begin until you can stay awake. As wakefulness masters you through your willingness, then the objectives of life change. It becomes less about staving off lack and more about growth, uncovering stuck places in your consciousness, finding ways to stay open. As you do that, your understanding of the world and your understanding of the plight of humans grows, and with it comes a compassion that is authentic. So it doesn't always look like compassion. Because it's not a story. It's just a wakefulness and understanding. You know, if that compassion comes from the story, it looks different. A person would see you taking pity on somebody and lending them this very visible helping hand. Compassion that comes from wakefulness, from just seeing what people are stuck in, doesn't look like that. Sometimes it looks very fierce. Most of the time, it almost just looks like leaving someone to something. Because you've learned that pitying somebody just exaggerates their self-pity. And that having faith in them actually gives them faith in themselves. You don't care at that point how people perceive you. So moment to moment, you just do your best to do what's needed according to your wakefulness. You catch yourself when it turns into something else, because that's a part of you getting sucked back in to the illusion. If there's an image you have to keep alive, then you're falling asleep again. But it's 99.9% freedom in front of you at any given moment. So meditation is not a practice of holding something steady so that you can store something up. It's just a shift to what is. And the more time you spend as the real you, the more stable you become in that. You may even go through phase where you just allow yourself to want, just to operate the storyline. Doesn't matter. It's okay. You kind of have to do that in order to keep growing, because there will be parts of you that are stuck, that you haven't seen. They haven't been challenged yet. The story stirs all of that and shows you where you're stuck. So it's not about escaping life. You were born into a storyline. But you're no longer imprisoned by it. And that's all the difference in the world. Are there any questions about any of that? It's trite, but it's the most important thing I could say.
If you go off of a story, does it help to be like upset with yourself about it?
Just to make sure that made it to the recording, someone just asked, if you go off of a story, does it help to be upset with yourself about it? Only for a split second. Emotions are useful in that they become like alarms for us. They become like a buzzer. But, fear, for example, saves you from falling off a cliff. Anger lets you know that your resources are being misused. But if those feelings persist, all that means is that you don't understand that it's your story. You know, you're still giving your power to whatever's in front of you. The reality is, in that moment, you could just shift. And so there's nothing to really be angry about or hard on yourself over. Because honestly, if you let it go past the emotion, then all you have is a story built on top of an ugly emotion. It's kind of another big difference between somebody really living this and somebody who is just living like most people live. You know, it's stark. One way takes you up and the other way takes you down. And none of the things really allow you to just stand still. Because if you get that emotional alarm, and then instead of just using it to correct yourself, you allow it to build a story about you, then you're going down a level, and then down a level, and then down a level. And you know what? That's okay. If that happens, it's not a big deal. The bottom's unpleasant enough that it'll spit you back up to the top. But there are easier ways, which is to just recognize, oh, I'm upset because I just lived against what I know to be true. Let's shift our attention. Not hard to do. That freedom's all around you. You do that, and then all of your mistakes become a trigger to take you higher and higher and deeper into what's real. But on a spiritual path, you'll find standing still isn't an option. It's always evolution or de-evolution. But again, the de-evolution, everyone has a certain line where they're not going to go below, and it's different for each of us, but we all have it. And when you get to that place, you will start questioning yourself in better ways. What else, guys? All right. So then let's sit in our freedom. Take in this moment completely. There's room in this moment for all your stories, as long as you can see the freedom in between them. So there's nothing you have to push away. There's no rigidity of focus that is required. Just be with what is. Life is not crowding out reality with stories. You can even afford to get stuck in a past moment or a future moment, and then you can just let go of it. In this place, nothing's wrong. .9% of your moments, nothing's wrong. And if you need to step back into a story to help somebody, from this place of freedom, you have an aerial view. You can see more. You can afford to invest yourself. Because as all-consuming as it appears to them, you know that in the vast majority of their moments, nothing is actually wrong. Maybe a problem to resolve. But that freedom and the problem, they can coexist. The problem will either get solved in this lifetime, or it'll be one of the problems that don't get solved. Like a movie you didn't finish watching. But your freedom in where you place your attention persisted. It was always there. Not everybody's ready to hear that. But you are. People like to pick apart teachings like that as inconsiderate to the legitimate suffering that exists in the world. It's true, though. Spiritually awake people, even within the most dire stories, find their freedom in the heart of it. It expands their intelligence, their ability to seek solutions. It expands their compassion for the other people who are stuck in the same circumstances. It provides opportunities to find places in their consciousness that they need to get unstuck. In shamanism, they seek it out sometimes. They seek out what they call a petty tyrant. Some person who's just there to make your life a living hell. And they use it to train their mind. I spent many years on a monastery that didn't particularly like men. They thought we were mules that should be working in the field. came from an era where women were being mistreated, and so it just kind of felt good, I think, to that teacher to sort of stick it to a man. If you're trying to overcome your ego, as a man, I can't think of a better scenario. What a fantastic petty tyrant. In my life, I take on all kinds of challenges. I get in over my head, actually. But what else is there to do but challenge your ability to unfold your consciousness within difficult circumstances? It pushes my head under the water here and there. If I didn't do it, I would look very holy. But I do it because it fosters growth. It stabilizes consciousness. And I say that to let you know your life is stabilizing you. Open up within your painful story so that you can see that 99.9% of it is reflecting back the freedom of what you are as consciousness. The whole universe waits for you to give yourself that gift. Only you can do it. And there isn't a person in this world that can take it from you once you have it. Only you can throw it away. this week, every day, I want you to find the freedom 4 times a day. I'm not asking that you spend a certain amount of time meditating. I mean, you will inevitably get lost in your stories. I'm asking you to shake yourself awake 4 times a day. You shift your attention. If you have to let someone else win the argument in your head because you're done fighting, so be it. Four times a day, choose to step out of being stuck and give your attention to the reality around you that is absolutely free. And when you're there, you can let go. You can get stuck again if you want. But then you'll wake up again 4 times a day. Waking up from a place of being asleep is actually a more important skill than sustaining wakefulness. Because nobody really sustains wakefulness. Anyone I ever met who claimed that was selling something. This world is hypnotic. We are designed to get sucked in. So you need to be able to bob and weave with all of it. To take enough of that wakefulness into the sleep that you can pull out of it. And at the end of every day, ask yourself how you did. Did you do it 4 times? If not, why not? And make a plan for how you're going to do better. For me, I used to set a little alarm on my watch. But you figure out what works for you. All right, everybody. Any questions before we end for the night?
I don't have a excuse me, I don't have a question, Liam, but I just want to say this one tonight was extremely helpful. So thank you, and thank you for opening up and letting us into your world and your truth, and for doing this for us. And I'm definitely gonna do that, 4 times a day thing, which I actually have been doing. I put a rubber band on my arm, which is like maybe not the best way to do it, but it works.
If it works, it works.
Yeah. So thank you. And just thank you for everything. Like, you're wonderful, and I really appreciate you spending your time with us, and I thank all of you. Yeah.
I appreciate you too, Joanna. There's no teacher without students, right? You guys being ready to seek these things are part of what makes them happen. So the line between us isn't real. There's just consciousness that's at the heart of all of us trying to wake up, and it's just playing us like instruments. All right, guys. I will see you next Thursday. Thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope you all have a great week. Bye.
Bye.